All right.
Hello.
Look at all those awesome. Look at all these people.
Welcome, everybody. We're
Welcome.
so glad you're here. So, welcome back to Tastemaker Talk, our bi-monthly webinar series where you can take our industry-leading education with you wherever you go. I'm Candace Probst, and I'm joined by my business bestie and co-host, Abby Rodriguez. We have Casey Markee joining us today, and he has a really exciting presentation to deliver here in just a few moments that we are so excited for. But first things first, we always start Tastemaker Talk by just kind of letting you guys know just some housekeeping. So we ask that you kindly keep um, yourself muted until it's time for question and answer and or questions, and even then, just drop those in the chat and we'll answer them, ask and answer those. But if you'll keep yourself muted for the duration of the pod or webinar, that would be great. And then lastly, we are getting so excited to do a Tastemaker conference in Las Vegas in January. We are so excited. So, due to the unprecedented demand for our 2025 event, we've opened up a fresh batch of tickets. But as soon as those are gone, they're gone for good. We have 28 tickets left. That's it. So, we've always capped it at 500. We've never done more than that. And we had so many people wanting to come that we upped it to 600. And we only have 28 left of those 600, which is pretty exciting. But we'd love for you to be there. The registration link will be in the chat for live listeners and in the show notes for everyone else after December 18th. So without further ado, we are so honored to be joined by Casey Markee for our episode today, known as the Santa Claus of SEO for food and lifestyle bloggers. Casey Markee has delivered gifts of higher rankings, faster sites, and content success to creators worldwide. With decades of experience and a sleigh full of Google know-how, Casey has helped thousands of bloggers unwrap their full potential. Casey, welcome to Tastemaker Talk. I love it, and thanks for being here. We'll turn the time over to you and let you share your screen. If anyone has questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to drop those in the chat, and we'll come back to those at the very end. Welcome, Casey.
Thank you very much, Candace, Abby, Daphne, for having me. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy shopping schedules to join me today. If you're anything like me, you have waited to the very last minute and have not got anything done. I'm waiting for my Amazon elves to arrive. I was very disappointed that I couldn't get more presents pre-wrapped. So I always put a flyer in the neighborhood and I pay someone to come over and wrap my presents because I am literally that unable to do it. I've like my hands will be all cut up. It'll be terrible. So I did not want to present that today. I did not want to have bloody hands while I was presenting this presentation, but we'll put together a really interesting presentation with a lot of cool Christmas related content and gifts. I think you guys will like it. Without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started on that. Shannis, just everyone, let me know if you can see everything okay. Good, fantastic. So, days of SEO. Here's we go. 12 days of SEO. This is what we're going to talk about today. And first things first here. I want to make sure that we can remove this. I don't want this to be okay. Yeah, we're good here. As long as everyone can see everything, we should be good. So just an FYI. So Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I thought you guys might get a kick out of this, how you can get on the nice list here specifically. As I said, I'm still working on my shopping, and it is always a bother. So again, hopefully you guys are doing a lot better than me. But I think you're going to find the presentation today here really helpful. It's going to be basically a 12 days of SEO presentation. This is a little bit about me. I've been doing this for a very long time in the days of Ask Jeeve, and before that, as Abby and Shannis know, I've been working with them for several years. I've been very fortunate to be involved in Tastemaker. I really appreciate the turnout today. I've also done a lot in the industry. I write a column with Search Engine Land. I'm routinely recommended by Google as one of the select SEOs to follow for advice. I thought that was pretty cool. It's very nice to actually be called out by Google representatives and put over with nice luminaries like Lily Ray, Marie Haynes, AJ Coyne, and others. I've known them for years. So what does that mean? It doesn't really mean anything. It just means that maybe I'm a little bit more reliable than other SEOs, but who knows? It's just our best guess in many cases. So we're going to go ahead and get this going today. And we're going to talk literally about 12 days of SEO. I'm going to give you very specific tips, very specific strategies covering each of these days to help you kind of get the most out of your site, especially as we go into 2025. Day number one, we need to stop blocking AI bots. As many of you know, there has been a huge push by select ad companies who will remain nameless trying to go ahead and out there and trying to block AIs at the server level. This is an example of one of the kind of the default robot files that have been pushed out to a lot of bloggers who aren't even aware that this is live on their site. Now, again, I get why people might want to block AI bots, but we're going to talk a little bit about why that's not necessarily the best practice. Whenever we do things like block AI bots, what we're doing is we're preventing full visibility in the search results. And blocking AI bots will actually cost you traffic because it will limit your visibility. So I personally recommend that we do not do this, but we're going to get into the actual reasons why this is not necessarily a good idea for the average blogger. So blocking AI bots means the following. It gives reduced discovery and visibility in the search results. We also have a reduced ability to qualify for rich snippets, knowledge panels, AI overviews. This also will reduce our voice search optimization, especially now that Search GPT has launched. For those of you who have not had a chance to try Search GPT, it is incredible. The beta will be open around the end of January, so that will be a deluge of new users that will come into that. Currently, we have AI overviews that are around 12 to 15% of search results. That will double projectedly by the end of the second quarter of 2025. So the amount of real estate that bloggers can qualify for by allowing their sites to be part of these training data, by allowing their sites to be used by LLMs, is dramatic. And so there are clearly competitor advantages for those of you who have not allowed your ad company to dictate whether or not their content, your content, should be used by LLMs. So you have to ask yourself some questions. Do you really think, if you can say, be honest with yourself, these are two major questions to determine whether you think that blocking AI bots might be good for you and your brand long term. And the first one is, am I big enough that I can command money from these AI platforms for my content? And the second, of course, is, am I creating content that is so unique it cannot be acquired elsewhere? And again, I'm not here to dictate what you should do. My goal here is to give you options, as my wife would like to say. I want to be here to give her solutions, not necessarily, solace, not necessary solutions whenever I can. Now, if your answer to these questions is no, then blocking AI bots in most cases is not worth your time. So just ask these of yourself. I know that this presentation will be shared later. Definitely something to be aware of. And if you're not aware that your ad company is blocking your AI bots, go to your site /robots.txt and just check. Make sure that your default robots file hasn't been changed without your knowledge, which is always surprising when I do audits over the last several months. Day number 2, we're going to talk about removing intrusive interstitials and pop-ups. And this is something that a lot of bloggers just have been fed incorrect information about. So let's talk a little bit about that in detail. These are examples of intrusive interstitials. These all activate on mostly the first click from Google. You can see that they cover most of the screen. Some of them cover the entire screen. This is really interesting, but this is pretty cut and dry with Google. Basically, it says right here, intrusive dialogues and interstitials make it hard for Google and other search engines to understand your content, which may lead to poor search performance. They want you to avoid interstitials and pop-ups like this when at all possible. What it says right here specifically is what's important. Showing a pop-up that covers the main content either immediately after the user navigates to a page from the search results or while they are looking through the page is a violation. So if you've been told by your pop-up provider, hey, it's okay, you can run this, it's just going to be a delay, or it's going to show up after the user scrolls down to the page, it's totally fine with Google. And that is absolutely 100% incorrect advice and has been for years, since this has been live since 2017. So my advice to you is I make a note of these every time that we have an audit. I do not like to see these on a site. Anything that you can do that will limit your visibility in Google is a competitive advantage you are giving away to other bloggers. So I would urge all of you, if you want to use pop-ups, make sure that you're running them in between pages. Make sure that you're not running them on the first click from Google. Even an exit only, honestly, when the user is leaving the first page to go somewhere else, technically to Google is a violation. So we tend to want to not run pop-ups at all unless they're not from a Google referral. You can run pop-ups till the cows come home on any click not coming from Google. You want to run pop-up on all your Facebook, social, and non-Google traffic. Awesome. You feel free to do that. But pop-ups themselves should never activate on the first click from Google when at all possible. So again, kind of as a reminder, violations of Google mobile interstitial guidelines are very clear. We don't want to use those as the user navigates down the page. Delays and exit delays only also provide a trigger for here. Moving on, let's go ahead and talk about day number 3, grouping your blocks. This is something that I've been recommending for the last couple of years. This is something that the data shows when we do the usertesting.com surveys that we've been doing since 2017. We show very clearly that when we group blocks, especially over the last couple of years, this improves readability considerably. Here's an example of a blogger that did not know that their ad company was putting auto-playing video ads above the featured images of their page until we visited earlier this year. So this was before they grouped their blocks, and this is after they grouped their blocks so that they can control where those ads pop in on the page. This also comes down to an algorithm called the page layout algorithm, or the top-heavy algorithm, which is still a thing. The top-heavy algorithm works both on mobile and desktop. We do not want to show any ads above the fold of the page when at all possible. And clearly in this screen capture, you can see that that is clearly above the fold of the page. So we definitely do not want to have that happen if we can help it. So when at all possible, we want to group blocks so that we can control ourselves, not let an algorithm with your ad company control what the readability and appearances of your content at scale. So if we go over here, proactively grouping your blocks improves readability and increases UX, and even better, it increases time on site, which, drum roll, is going to increase your RPMs. So we always want to do that. Now, I will be remiss if I didn't say that we have multiple instances where both Mediavine and Raptive have ignored grouping of blocks. I've had instances where we've grouped the blocks on the call, and we've literally had to email the ad companies and tell them, hey, cut this out. I grouped these for a reason. Please respect it. And then magically, the grouped blocks work just fine. So just understand that you have to monitor this. Here's a tutorial on how to group your blocks. If you're not aware of how to do it, I've provided bit.ly URLs below here so that you can easily access this and several of the resources that you'll see today in this presentation. So this is new to you, or like, is grouping blocks hard? It really is not. It's built into WordPress base. Everyone on this call today can do it. Take a look at the tutorial if you have any questions. Now, let's move to day number 4, opting out of iOS annotations. This was caused a lot of consternation just a couple of weeks ago when it was announced that Google is targeting users who are on your website and taking them back to search. So what this is happening is absolutely not good for you. You have to opt out of this new program. This is a new search feature that is going to be live, that is live now on iOS run phones that are running Google. So how do you opt out of this? And basically what you do is you follow and fill out this form. This is a free form that Google has provided. I've provided the link below, opt out iOS links. And we want to do this. We don't want to have Google stealing our traffic on our website and sending it back to basically the knowledge panel so that they can garner another click. We don't want to do that when at all possible. So this is a very easy way to do that. You're just going to fill out the form. There was some initial confusion when this form came out that this was you had to do this continually. You do not. This is a one and done process. All you have to do is go to the form, sign up. I mentioned below, this is a curious decision by a company embroiled in multiple antitrust lawsuits because there is nothing user-friendly about this, but that's Google for you. In many cases, they don't know what Unarm is doing as opposed to the other, but this has been universally bashed by about everyone who's aware of it. I definitely do not recommend it. So just be aware if this is news to you, search iOS annotations, or make sure that you go and review the page here, and it'll have all the information that you need. Day 5, we want to enable print pass. We want to lock your recipe cards. If this is news to you, this is one of the few things, respectfully, that Mediavine has done over the last couple of years that I am wholeheartedly in agreement with. If you're not aware of what this is, here's what it looks like. This is a very simple GIF showing what this involves. I tested this for months. I was skeptical when they first launched this last spring, whether this was something that I could really get behind. Basically, what it does is it locks your recipe cards and requires anyone who wants to print these out to provide an email. But respectfully, this hasn't been an email game changer. This is absolutely something that I recommend for anyone on Mediavine or anyone who's struggling to build their email list. How successful can this be? Well, Here's one of many, many emails that I receive about this. Wow, Casey, you were not kidding about Print Pass. I just downloaded 150 new emails to my list in 48 hours. I usually don't get that many signups in some months. Really appreciative. Thank you. I get a lot of these. People are like, well, I don't want to do this. You know, I don't, people aren't going to use this. No, they do. They sign up for this in droves. And the best part about this is that the number of false positives here, the people that just put an email to put an email, incredibly low, very low. We've got numerous people. I know there's a lot of clients. I see the names here in the chat that have enabled this. They can attest to how effective this can be. I am all for this. Our goal is to really build up your email list whenever possible, because the numbers that you're going to get are going to blow your mind. And why do we want to have an increased email list? Well, the thing is that this is going to have a lot of benefits. But first, you know, anybody who can use Grow can enable this. Here's what I think is really interesting. Just because this is a Mediavine product doesn't mean that you can't use this on Raptive. As a matter of fact, I have multiple Raptive publishers who have implemented this. That there's no reason this doesn't conflict with anything on Raptive. All you have to do is install Grow. You go into the online dashboard, you enable it, you're good to go. So if you're asking yourself, man, I wish that I had this option in Raptive. Well, Raptive has no plans to introduce something similar. Totally okay. You can go ahead and install Grow. You can go and follow the instructions here, and this will work for Raptive publishers as well. And I do recommend it. I think anyone who's trying to build their email list, whether you're Raptive or Mediavine, should be using this. So email, again, is one of the only vehicles that you truly own, and this will dramatically increase your signups. I mentioned again, you might receive a little bit of pushback, but a 500% uptick in emails is definitely worth the occasional irritated person who feels that they didn't want to give their email. So, like I said, this is just something to consider, another tool in your tool belt, and I highly recommend enabling Print Pass and Grow. Day number 6, we're going to fix broken links. We've talked about this repeatedly in past presentations. This is one of the easiest and low-hanging fruit ideas or implementations that you can make that will make a real difference. There are various ways for you to find and fix broken links on your site. The first one that I would like to recommend, and many of you might be familiar with it, is the Broken Link Checker plugin. There's a link to the plugin below in WordPress. It's very easy to use. You'll install it. You'll go in and set up the settings. Just make sure that you go under settings and choose categories and comments and posts and pages and recipes and anything else there that you want to fix. You don't want to go through and click everything, because that just slows the plugin way down. But if you check comments and you check layouts and you check patterns and you check posts and pages and recipes, you're going to cover a good 90% plus of possible link targets on the site. So that's the first thing I want you to do. The second thing is I'd like you to install and use the Chrome Check My Links add-on. The Chrome Check My Links add-on is very simple to use. Just runs on a database. You install it. You can see the nice yellow, the red, the green as a way for you to see where the problem areas might be. And this is a good way to check as you're going through your site to see, well, if there are any invalid links on my site that I'd want to fix, and I can just visually go in and fix those. And then finally, the third way is for you to go in and review your 404s into Google Search Console. This is not hard to do at all. I've provided the steps here. You're going to go to Pages, then you're going to navigate to Not Found, and then you're going to go ahead and just make sure that you clicked Inspect on all of that. You'll be able to see the information. Once you click Inspect, you'll have a referring page over here that you can see, and the referring page will have the links to the 404s on your site. And that's what we want to do. There's two parts of 404s. A 404 is created because you've removed a page from your site, or maybe the page no longer exists and you forgot about it. That's fine. That happens. But we have to remove the internal links to that 404, or we'll continue hitting Google over and over again with needless information or needless links that don't do anything. And 404s are not a sign of low site quality, but they're bad for two reasons. The first one, of course, is for users. The user comes to your site and they hit a 404, they're not going to stick around. Now, the second reason is Google. There is a crawl issue involved here. When Google crawls a site and they hit that 404, many times they'll stop and come and finish the crawl later. And so that reduces crawl quality a little bit, because they have to come back and finish crawls that shouldn't have been interrupted in the first place. So going in, using things like the Broken Link Checker, using the Chrome extension, using Google Search Console. This is just simple SEO 101. We want to fix these as much as possible. We want our sites to be so algorithmically attractive to Google, they would be embarrassed not to rank us. And it starts with making sure that we don't have issues like this on the site. Okay. Just what I said, lowers crawl quality, decreases US. No one wants to navigate a site with broken links. So self-audit these every month. This is a great one. Good old Mediavine. This is the arrival unit with Mediavine. Hey, I know many of you probably have this enabled on the call. Maybe you don't even know that you have it enabled. We always go to a site. Jump to recipe buttons are fantastic. They're there for users. We had the data years ago, which is why these are so paramount. You'll see these on most sites because this is what users want. And whenever we give users what they want, it tends to be very successful. So we've got the jump to recipe button here as an example. Then we go over here and then we jump on, we click the jump to recipe and then look happen. We jump to an ad. That's a little strange. Why did you jump me to an ad? And then even worse, I have to click another link to get to the recipe card. And that is what the jump to arrival unit does with Mediavine. Mediavine drug their feet for years. They did not want to implement jump links. And then they had no choice based upon the data and the outroar from their publishers that, hey, okay, we're going to give you the jump links, but it's going to be on our terms. We're going to opt all of you in 100% at our end to the arrival unit. And then it's on you to go in and turn this off. Now, that's pretty Grinchy behavior. We've said this for years. I'm not a fan of the jump to arrival unit at all. It's funny because the evidence that this does nothing for URPs is overwhelming. People just don't like to hit an ad and then have to click another link to go to your recipe card. So they're just going to leave your site. And we see that over and over again when we do Clarity, when we do Hotjar, when we do any heat mapping at all. We see the abandonment goes through the roof. So if anyone is saying, hey, you know, my ad company is telling me I need to leave this on because it's going to help my RPMs, don't believe it. Not true at all. Ask the Grinch here. So how do you turn this off? Really simple. You log into your dashboard. There's a nice big enable jump to a recipe arrival unit, and you're just going to toggle that off to disable. And you're going to be a lot more happy. Now, I will mention again, this is bad for users, but it's also a WCAG accessibility violation. You can advertise, hey, click here for the recipe, and then send users to a completely different place on the page. So if you're on the call and you're like me, you have relatives with disabilities, you have relatives using screen readers, or you just don't like to say to do one thing and say another, turn this off. I recommend all bloggers turn this off. We always want to optimize for users. This is the least effective way to do so. It's definitely Grinchy behavior. All right, let's move to day 8. Optimizing internal linking here. Really simple. We'll optimize internal linking. Why is internal linking important? Well, this is John Mueller, still very paramount, one of our main points of contact at Google. Super critical to SEO. That's where he places internal linking. Internal linking is one of the greatest things that bloggers can do and do effectively. Now, the problem is that a lot of people mistakenly do internal linking. They link by incredibly general keywords they have no chance of ranking for and which have lowered or lessened contextual ability for Google to understand the site. You might not ever rank for casseroles. Totally get it. But you might rank for cracked chicken casserole or beef Wellington casserole or something specific. So why would you go in and have 100 links to casseroles on your site when you have 8 different casseroles? You've diluted, you've cannibalized the ability of those individual casserole posts to rank, but you've also targeted a keyword that is so general that you'll never rank for it to begin with. And that is the case for 99 out of 100 of these long tail keywords. So here is a guide on internal linking by Google. It's a really great value to you to read. This also includes the review or the interview that John did covering internal linking. I also want you to read my Search Engine Land article on internal linking. It's one of the it was one of the most popular internal linking articles on Search Engine Land in 2024. I cover this in detail. It tells you how to link internally correctly. It goes over how to avoid anchor text cannibalization. It goes over how to correctly link from the top of the post to the bottom, what a good anchor text looks like, what a bad anchor text looks like. Implementing even just a couple of these issues here, correcting even a small amount of these 9 mistakes, it's going to be like taking a parking brake off your site you'll find that your topical discoverability improves dramatically. You'll find that your time on site improves dramatically because users are finding what they want. They're staying on the pages longer. And you're finding more than that, that rankings will improve because now we've provided very specific long tail keyword signals to Google about what our site is about. No more here's and link this and see this and read this recipe and casseroles and, beef. We don't want to do that. We want to be very specific within our internal linking as much as possible. And this article, if I do say myself, covers this in detail and very, very well. I've doubled traffic on blogs just by improving their internal linking. We want to, again, I mentioned this, we want to be descriptive. We want to be long tail. We also, of course, want to go in and remove orphan content and link naturally from the top of the post to the bottom. The previous article here covers all of those details, all of those items and more. So definitely check that out. Day number 9, we want to optimize for AI overviews. I mentioned to you when we were doing the initial introduction that AI overviews are currently around 13 to 15% of all queries right now. The most recent data we've seen is that percentage will double by the end of the second quarter of 2025. So AI overviews are not going away. They are not going to be lessened. They will be increased. We have to be able to optimize for AI overviews. And how do we optimize for AI overviews? Well, first thing we want to do is we want to go to Google and see what Google has to say about it. And this is a link to their AI overviews optimization article. And I'm just going to highlight the biggest takeaways. No action is needed for publishers to benefit from AI overviews. And Google systems automatically determine which links appear. Not super helpful, Google. So good times. Clearly, that's not really going to be helpful for you, but that's okay. There are ways that we can optimize this. And this is one of the best articles that was published this year. This is by my colleague, Julia McCoy, and this is highly, highly relevant, very well done. And every one of you on this call today needs to read this article. It goes over exactly what I tell my clients when I'm visiting with them about AI overviews. Julia lays it all out for you. She talks about how you can optimize for passage indexing. She talks about how we can optimize by AI overviews by using the appropriate schema and going in and making sure that we're using FAQ and how-to schema when at all possible and appropriate on the page. She talks about how we have to look at the people also ask questions so that we can steal those on our site and optimize them accordingly. She does a really good job with this. So again, there's no reason for me to reinvent the wheel here. I want you guys to take a look at this, go in and optimize as much as you can. Now, we can also want to track AI overviews. So we've been requesting from Google that they include information on AI overviews in Google Search Console. And as of right now, we have no timeline on when they're going to provide that data. But there are some ways for you to use third-party tools to see what your visibility is currently in AI overviews. And the first one here is an SEMrush. So if you're on SEMrush, you can go in now and there's a trackable SERP feature that is available in all account levels. And you can see a screenshot of it. You just go in, you choose search feature, and you can see currently under the keyword detail overview page what my visibility is for the AI overviews. And you might be surprised at how many AI overviews and rich snippets you're generating there. So we want to go in, we want to track that. Second option is you can use a commercial tool. It's called ziptie.dev. Ziptie is a paid tool, but it's very effective. If you're a larger blogger doing anywhere from 100 to 500,000 to several million sessions a month from Google, this might be an investment you would make. It's a 14-day trial, then it's $29 a month after that. Especially if your goal is to really optimize, get ahead, put this on your Christmas list. This is something that will absolutely give you a competitive advantage in 2025 because they have the most data, even more than SEMrush, with regards to how they're tracking the AI overviews. There's a full tutorial that I've linked to, which tells you how to very easily use this site. Like I say, if you have SEMrush, totally fine. I would just continue to do that. But if you don't have SEMrush and you're looking at another tool that might be more relevant based upon what we discussed today, costs you absolutely nothing to do the 14-day trial, and I do recommend that. All right, now let's go ahead and move to day 10. We're going to use jump links and table of content blocks. Adding jump links and table of contents generates site links. You can see them right here. This is an example of advanced jump links on Feast. You can see how nice those jump links are in the search results. those jump links generate increased traffic and CTR. Here's an example of a sample table of contents on another site. You can see here that those also generate the nice site links, the jump links as we call them in the search results. This, whatever we can do to make sure that we generate increased site links in the SERPs, we want to do that because this is going to increase visibility and conversion. Very simply, more rich snippets equals more clicks. And that's what we want to do every time. So if you were on the fence about whether or not you wanted to add a table of contents, or if you were on the fence about using jump links, I highly recommend them. I recommend them into every blogger that I ever visit with. There has been a trend for people to add jump links and close the table of contents or close the jump links. Please do not do that. It makes no sense to include a user-first improvement or enhancement to your recipes and then close it because you don't like how it looks. You can go over and use something like this. This is actually, you can half collapse this. You can show maybe the first 3 or 4 headings on a page. That looks exceptional. Or you can do like this. This is advanced jump links with feast. You can go in and edit the container size under feast settings. I think the default there is about 300, but I would lower that to 265 or 275 pixels, which will activate scrolling and make it a lot easier for users to find that information, but not take up so much real estate on mobile devices specifically. But I'm all for these. Again, more rich snippets equals more clicks. We want to use table of contents. We want to use jump links. The only time you wouldn't necessarily want to include jump links or a table of contents on a page would be if you had less than 5 headings or something like that. That's usually not the case for most food and lifestyle bloggers. We write complete content whenever we can. So as long as that's not a concern, then this is a viable way for you to continue to push and optimize your content to a growing audience. Also, day number 11, we want to add notes to recipe cards. I've been a very big advocate on this for years, ever since 2015 when I really started to come in. We want to add notes because notes are helpful for users. We never want to take things for granted. You've heard me optimize for toddlers and drunk adults. It involves you understanding and how to correctly leverage notes in your recipe cards. So I have to ask you very clearly, what's more helpful for users? Sending them down to the recipe card and just showing them this? We're sending them down to the recipe card and showing them this, which is clearly more helpful. Now, there had been some arguments that, hey, we want them to go back to the post and find that information. Well, first of all, if you've used Clarity and Hotjar, they're not doing that. And second of all, you've lowered your optimization because this content here, folks, is crawlable algorithmically by Google. So by not including notes and not providing information, you've lowered your optimization both for the carousel and for the page itself. So we really want to make sure that we're filling out notes as much as we can. We don't need to write a novel here, but we want to put our most important information. I always tell bloggers the same thing. Ask yourself, if someone was to print out your recipe card, would they have all the information they need to make this recipe perfectly the first time? You've made the recipe 1,000 times. What is it that you remember when the first time you made it? That's the kind of information that we want to put in the notes. That's the kind of information that we want available for the user to print out. Whenever we do that, we're going to be more successful. So like I said, I want you to be helpful for users. This isn't necessarily super helpful. One of my favorite movies of all time, A Christmas Story. I hope all of you are watching it this season. We have already watched it 6 times, so good times. And we actually have a drinking game about it. That's how many times we watch it. So never boring here. So kind of as a summary here, most recipe cards should have detailed notes. Like I said, you want to ask yourself, if the user was to print this out, would they have all the information they need? Nobody wants to go back to a recipe needlessly. And as I mentioned as well, these notes are counted algorithmically for SEO. They provide a complete and detailed recipe for your users and future users to digest. Last one, day 12. We're killing it. We're killing it here. Plenty of time to go out and drink after this. Day number 12, support all health claims. This is a big one. We see this a lot. So let's talk about health claims. Why is this a big deal? Well, Google has these things called quality rater guidelines, and this is a big one. You see right here where it says a page can be given a low quality designation if the article is on a health topic or it mentions a health claim and it's clear that there are no supporting links to the health claim, or it's clear that the content creator does not have the relevant expertise to support those health or medical claims. The QR guidelines are a framework that tells creators where the search results go. They're not ranking factors themselves, but this is training data. This is where Google is going. Google is using the quality rater guidelines. They upload it to RankBrain and then they push that out on the front end so that we can provide all these algorithmic adjustments that you're seeing repeatedly and the massive amount of core updates we've had. Now, of course, we're already into our December core update, which is going to last another 7 to 10 days. But one of the biggest triggers in the helpful content update, one of the biggest triggers in core updates was a failure to support health and medical claims. I have seen actual medical doctors, a DO and an MD in rheumatology, both have had audits with me. Both of them were hit by these updates and they couldn't figure out why. And it's just because even though they had great credentials, they did go out and support this information. So we're talking about AI overviews before. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between a health fact and a health claim, because you need to know the difference, especially if you're on the call right now and you have anything that's gluten-free, you've had a lot of vegan content, you have alternative health content, anything on the site where you have made claims, says here very quickly, make sure to support any health claims you make. Aim to improve the quality of search results by prioritizing helpful content and reducing low quality content. And then you can see right there, do you see my highlight? Make sure to support any health claims you make. For example, if you say a recipe is dairy-free, that's a health fact. If you say it will clear up acne, that's a health claim that has to be supported. That's my article. So this is Google telling you that my advice to you is good enough for them to be the #1 choice for the AI overview. And this is something that we see a lot. Google wants you to support these health claims. This is something I talked about way back in October 2023 when we were actually working with Tastemaker to do a conference, an invite-only conference in Brooklyn. And it was very successful. This came out, and this is still relevant today. It's one of the top-ranking resources for helpful content update, and it is one of the top-ranking resources you'll find when you want to find any information on how to support health claims. So that's been my advice for a long, long time. I've had representatives from Google reach out and tell me how great they were to see that in print so that we can push that out. But if you're going to put any health claims in your posts, you must support them. There had been some recent advice not to put any health claims in your content. That's a nuclear approach. I don't think that's necessary at all. All you have to do is support the health claims. If you feel that's important, if you know that, I love this blackberry smoothie because blackberries are known to contain these benefits, you're just going to do an in-content citation and link out and support those benefits. You're going to use the National Library of Science. You're going to use the National Library of Health. You're going to use Healthline. You're going to just reach out and support those by in-content citations. With regards to citations, we've had audits in the past where bloggers have asked me, do we want to use the inline citations or do we want to use maybe an MLA style citations where we actually support those citations by numbers and then the numbers jump down to the bottom and support the claims there? Well, Google actually answered this in a YouTube video, and they prefer inline in-content citations whenever possible. And so that's what I recommend. And I would recommend that you do that as well. It's going to be a lot easier for users. Don't make them jump back and forth. Support the statements. So again, if you're a gluten-free, clean eating blogger, anything on your site where you don't want to change how you're doing things. Maybe you're a certified nutritionist. That's great. And maybe you've decided that meal plans and a healthy lifestyle are very part of your brand. I would never tell you to change that. I would tell you to just lean into it more professionally and make sure that you're not taking things out of context. Find a supporting statement for your content. Can't just be your opinion. As the rheumatoid doctor and the DO that I visited with found out the hard way. Fortunately, they've been able to bounce back, and they did it just by going in and adding support to these statements among many, many other issues. Okay, so please take this to heart. I'm a big believer in it. I'm also going to go ahead and link to my article on how to survive and thrive in a Google helpful content world. Number 7 in there talks about these health claims. There's many other very important points there. So if you have been affected by any of these recent core updates, I stand by everything in this article. This is literally what I designed my audits around. This is how we fix issues. If you suffered a drop in from a recent core update from December, maybe you're suffering fallout from the recent one that we had in November. Maybe you're still suffering from the August one. Maybe it's from March. Maybe you still haven't recovered from September of 2023. Please read this article if it's news to you. I guarantee you it'll be very helpful for you. All right. On that note, that's a wrap. I really hope that this was helpful for you. It is never a bother to answer your questions. I'm always online in Facebook, Food Blogger Central. I am always available by email. Hopefully this was helpful. Before I turn this back over to Abby and Shandace, and of course, Daphne, I do want to request, if you found this presentation helpful at all, please consider supporting the no-kill Baja Animal Sanctuary this year with a donation. I've provided the link below. This is a nonprofit no-kill shelter based in Rosarito. We support it ourselves with a large Christmas fundraiser at the Markee Mansion here every year. This year we raised $7,500, but I think that we can do a lot more with the combined wealth and loving dog and cat owners that I know are on this call today. So really easy to do. Just take a screenshot of this screen here. Please consider going ahead, donating $10, $20, whatever you can afford. Make a donation because this is the squeeze time for Baja Animal Sanctuary. They always struggle to make ends meet at the very last couple of weeks of the year. And I cannot stress this enough. We've adopted 3 of our fur babies from Baja Animal Sanctuary, and they're a fantastic place. So on that note, thank you so much. I'll go ahead and stop the screen sharing and we'll turn it back over. Thank you so much for having me today, everyone.
Thank you, Casey. Everyone is just chatting like crazy in the chat. They're having so much fun. They've just said how wonderful the presentation is. So thank you very much. We appreciate that and appreciate you supporting your local nonprofits as well. So thank you. So we're going to just get started with a few questions. I know that Shauna's question was answered, but I just wanted to ask your opinion about Slickstream and Grow together. They can be run together. Thank you, David, for answering that for Shauna. But
Yep.
Opinions on that, Casey?
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Again, you're only going to be using Grow for the print pass. That's it. I would not use Grow for anything else. So as long as you're fine tuning what you're going to be using print pass for, you're good. And that's why I was very specific when I did that slide. I absolutely believe in print pass. Print pass will single-handedly double your email signups, especially if you've been struggling. Many of you might be familiar with NerdPress, and NerdPress now owns the Hubbub program, Hubbub plugin. They have a really nice save this option. You can use save this and print pass together in a post, providing you even more of a 20 or 30% uplift in signups. But yeah, there should be no conflict between Slickstream and Grow, especially if you are using Grow very finitely with just the print pass.
Perfect. Jessica wants to know if Journey has this, and if so, can it be turned off? She was wondering about the opting out of iOS annotations.
Yeah, that is not the iOS annotations are not ad company specific. So all you have to do is go to the form and you'll opt out of that. It's mostly to Apple phones. Any phone out there that's running Google on iOS, which is mostly going to be Apple tablets, other things like that, you are going to be opted into this automatically unless you opt out. So definitely go back, visit the link, opt out, and make sure that you don't have to worry about this in the future because we're getting busy. I know that this is probably going to be the furthest thing from your mind after you get off the call today. So make a mental note, go in. You can even search iOS annotations. The first article will pop up from, oh gosh, it wasn't Search Engine Land. It wasn't even Search Engine Journal. Someone else, SE Roundtable, actually. SE Roundtable broke that, Search Engine Roundtable. So you'll see Barry's article on there.
Perfect. Thank you. Tammy wants to know if you put the recipe notes in the post as well as in the card. You talked about how important that is to put them in the card. Do you also put them in the post?
Yeah, that's not a problem. People get confused about, well, if I put it in 2 places, is that duplicate content? No, that's not how it works. Duplicate content is a between pages situation, not an on-page situation. I could literally put a paragraph saying how Shandace and Abby are the best thing that ever happened since sliced bread, and I have that 7 times in my post. I'm not going to get any issues with that with Google, though, maybe it's not the best reading experience for my users. But with regards to notes, if you wanted to copy and paste some of your best expert tips or anything else from the top of the post into the card, that's totally fine. but also it always provides you more value to just rephrase that. So if you haven't used ChatGPT, this is a fantastic way to use ChatGPT. Take your expert tips, pop them into ChatGPT, tell them to condense them down and rewrite them, pop it into a new list into your recipe card, and Bob's your uncle. You're good to go.
Perfect. Thank you. Pam wants to know, for a newbie, how do I know if my site is blocking AI? Can you point me to a tutorial?
Well, there's no tutorial needed. You just need to go ahead and go up to your search bar, put a / and then put robots.txt. That's it. Robots.txt. You'll see your default robots file. Most sites have a default robots file, which is generated by Yoast or whichever SEO plugin they're using. And you'll see that if you have any other interesting or, gosh, I wasn't aware that I had all these AI parameters in there, then we know that one of your ad companies has possibly uploaded that for you and maybe forgot to tell you about it. Then you'd have to drop a note to your ad company and say, or actually you don't actually, because if you're signed up with Raptive, there's a dashboard. You got to log into the dashboard. There's a section on your robots file and you'll go in and toggle off the ones that you don't want to block. Now, for those of you who are like, okay, I really do want to block AI. Great. That's an option for you if you're with Raptive. Please do not block Google Extended. If you block Google Extended, you have guaranteed your inability to get consideration for AI overviews and other long tail options there for discoverability. So if you want to block the other ones, great, but do not block Google Extended. That's a very important crawler there for Google. They use it for mobile search. They use it for APIs, app APIs, and of course, they use it to pull in information for the AI overviews.
Perfect. Thank you. Donna is entertaining the idea of writing a low sodium cooking blog, and she uses potassium chloride often as an ingredient. However, that ingredient is not good for everyone. Would you recommend an internal link to a potassium chloride page and explain its usage along with cautionary article links in that situation?
Sure. Anything that you can do to clear up confusion on the part of your audience within that post, you'd want to do. So if you wanted to have a static link somewhere, maybe you have a little blurb that you put, maybe a 2-line. And if this is an issue with every recipe, feel free to have just a simple 2-line blurb. This is considered shared and ancillary content to Google, and they just ignore it completely. So it wouldn't really affect you negatively in any way on an SEO standpoint.
Thank you. Going back to the blocked, once we do these questions, usually more come in. Should we keep the other ones blocked or no, as long as Google Extended is not blocked?
That's up to you. Like I said, I'm of the opinion that you shouldn't be blocking AI at all. There's very little benefit, and the detriment to you could be substantial, especially as large as SearchGPT is growing. But it's your site. I would never tell you to do something that you're not comfortable with. But is there an SEO advantage for you blocking AI bots? No, there really is not. It puts you at a disadvantage to anyone else who's decided not to block AI bots in comparison, especially if they're in your niche.
Perfect. Thank you. How many times can you add the same link throughout the post if you're already recommending it at the end and linking it naturally in the post?
Well, Google only counts the first example of a specific anchor text they crawl on the page. So let's say that you were trying to link for, we'll use eggnog cheesecake because I have one that's coming later today. I'm very excited about it. Not had eggnog cheesecake in a long time. If you have eggnog cheesecake and you list it 3 times in the post, Google's just going to count the first one they crawl. And that's fine. You can have 3 links, especially if you feel that they're useful for the user. In content links are always the most powerful link on the page. If you have sidebar links, if you have FSRI block links, if you have image links, those all count. But the most powerful link really is the first in content link higher on the page when at all possible. And as an addendum to that, the most powerful link overall on a page is the one that gets clicked. So that's why we want to link naturally from the top of the post to the bottom. And if your goal is to try to push more authority to very specific posts with very specific long tail anchor text, higher on the page only helps you.
Okay. And I know you kind of debunked the using a phrase to catch people with those. You really need to be using the search term that you're trying to go after, correct?
Right. It does you no good to say world's best casserole when I have no idea what that casserole is. You're not going to rank. You're telling Google that you want to rank for world's best casserole, which we know you're not going to rank for, and probably most people are probably not going to search for that. So we want to keep the language specific whenever we can, and you control all the content on your site. So as you go back and you notice, wow, that's not a great anchor text, you can rewrite the sentence so that you can provide a better anchor text that actually reads naturally and doesn't look like it's forced. That's very easy to do. We do it on the calls during the audits all the time.
Perfect. Thank you. Um, is there a number of internal links on a post that is too much?
Well, visually, if you can see it, it's probably too much, but there is no such thing. I'm there. I know some bloggers say, "Oh, you should have this many internal links." That's not how it works. What you really want to be concerned about is the percentage of links. Like, for example, if I'm on a page and there's 10 links and 7 of those are affiliate, I'd be concerned because that's an unnatural link pattern to Google and users. Or if I'm on a page and the first 3 links on the page, one's to a category page, one's to an affiliate page, and one is a very poor low value descriptive anchor text, that's not great for you. So we'd really want to focus on making sure that we're linking naturally from the top of the post to the bottom. Some pages that may be 4 links, other pages, depending upon how long they are, that could be 14 links. But we just really want to link naturally. You don't need to rely on some strange or crazy formula. Okay, well, I need to provide 2 links for every 150 words. That's just not how it works.
Mhm. And can you still at the bottom do more cookie recipes you'll love and do it in bullet?
Absolutely, absolutely. As a matter of fact, that is the bare minimum that most bloggers do, and that's what I want to get at. If all you're doing is putting a related recipes block at the bottom, that's just not enough. We want to link naturally from the top of the post to the bottom, which is why the in content linking is so important. So again, continue to add the related recipes at the bottom, right above the recipe card. Those are great. If you're on Feast or other sites where it automatically will recommend other related recipes from the category of the primary category you've enabled for that post, that's fine as well. But in content links are the most powerful type of link vehicle on a page because they have contextual information around them. It's not just a block of links on a site, which can be programmatic and therefore can be ignored algorithmically.
Perfect. Thank you. Delaney is wondering when updating some of these things for SEO, such as adding support for health claims, updating facts, the FAQ section, will it cause any issues with Google to update a bunch of these posts in one day, or should these be spaced out over time?
No, you're fine. You could literally do them all at the same time. Google has to crawl a page. We know based upon the large leak, 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 search rankings leak that happened earlier this year, that Google tends to have to crawl a page 10 times before they trust the improvements or the changes to that page. So honestly, it's just not a concern for the average blogger. I would want to try to make as many changes as we can. There are various plugins you can install, like change last modified date or limit last modified date, which allow you to freeze the modified date. That's certainly something that I recommend so that we can batch the updates. If you know that you're going to make 6, 7, 8 changes to a post in one day, freeze the last modified date, go in, make all your changes, and then after you're done and you're done for the day, take that last modified date off, click it, push all those updates out to Google at the same time. There's certainly no benefit not to do that.
Perfect. Thank you. Jen is wondering, have H2s lost their SEO superpower? In all the TOC examples you shared, the headers that are pulled in the TOCs are super generic, ingredients, how to, etc.
Well, number one, over optimization has been dead for years. We have plenty of people, unfortunately, on this call have been hit by updates. And one of the issues is they have very keyword heavy H2s. It's something that we've argued against for years. If you've watched any of the Top Hat Rank webinars, you just don't need to be mentioning eggnog cheesecake in every heading. Here's how to make eggnog cheesecake FAQs, ingredients photo for eggnog cheesecake. Here's substitutions for eggnog cheesecake. That kind of philosophy is dead and has been dead for years. That's the kind of stuff that we just don't do. At most, maybe we mention the focus keyword in the how to make. Maybe we mention again in the FAQs and we call it a day because you're already covering the focus keyword in the on-page H1 and the recipe card H2. So it just doesn't make sense for you to go in and slap that focus keyword unnecessarily in all the other H2s on the page. You clearly did that for Google. You certainly didn't do that for users. There's no reason to do that in this day and age.
Do FAQs need to be their own block, or can you just do those as their own individual? Can this be made dairy free or etc.?
Well, let's talk about that. FAQs are always better if you use a actual FAQ block because there's markup there that Google can programmatically pull out. And we find that when we go in and look at the people also ask questions in Google, Google has specifically been able to pull out the FAQs on the page a lot easier. And that's why I gave you the article there, because she provides some data on this when they're in an actual FAQ block. There was a trend for years where people just put H3s on the page or H2s on the page and answered questions that way. That's just not needed for two reasons. Number one, it doesn't look great on the page. You've unnecessarily extended the scope of the page. And number two, it doesn't necessarily in a format that is easy for Google to programmatically pull out of the page. So if you have an FAQ carousel or a block like the Yoast FAQ accordion block, we can pop that block in. We can collapse those FAQ. They look great on mobile and desktop. Google's still able to crawl all the collapsed content. They pull them out that much easier for people also ask. I'm all for that. You know, we want to work smarter, not harder. And the most important thing today is when you're putting an FAQ, if you say, can I use butter in this recipe? You've wasted that FAQ. Okay. Google needs to understand what the FAQ is about, especially for AI overviews. Do not say, can I put butter in this recipe? Say, does this recipe for mashed potatoes, need more butter? Make sure that it's very specific to the post. If you go in right now and you put any query into Google and you look at the people also ask, the focus keyword is going to be in those people also ask, and you need to be replicating what you see there on your page. So I know there was some advice recently, last couple of years about, hey, you don't want to overdo your FAQs with your focus keyword. It's just wrong advice. The data doesn't support that. We want to be very specific with our FAQs. Do not be generic. I need to understand what the FAQ is about and as it relates to my page. So be very specific there as much as you can.
Perfect, thank you. Last question, Delaney wants to know if the header carousel option in Grow counts as an intrusive pop-up.
I'm not sure how that works, but I believe it's not first click from Google. I don't think that's the default. So you'd have to check on that. So as long as it's activating in between pages, you'd be fine. So the examples I showed you would be okay. You just have to test it. If you pull out your phone and you have to navigate down the page and there's a pop-up that covers half the screen, that's a concern. You can have a ribbon at the top that pops right in. That's not a problem because those are very small. And Google's very clear on the documentation pages that ribbons and anything that provides an age warning or anything that provides a cookies notice, those all are fine. But if you're using a pop-up and it activates as you scroll down the page or immediately, or even as I leave one page to the other, that's a violation.
Thank you. Sorry, Abby's just trying to get
I was talking and I was on mute. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you, Casey. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. It's always fun to have you on because we get to see so many people live. So thank you to everybody who asked questions, and we're so excited to see you in Vegas. For those who are coming, there's been some chatter in there too about some new timers, some people that are Tastemaker lifers. So we appreciate that. So thank you, Casey, for your expertise as always. In terms of where people can get in touch with you, Casey, or if they want to utilize your SEO services, can you provide them some social media information or your email where they can find you?
Sure. You can find me at mediawise.com. That's MEDIAWY as in yellow, SE.com. Pop up the contact page there, look at the options there. You can drop me a note anytime. You can find me on Facebook. You can always tag me in Food Blogger Central or Foodie Pro or even NerdPress. If you have any specific questions, you can drop me an email, casey@mediawise.com. I've provided my handles on the presentation, which will be live. But yeah, anything I can do to assist you. I wish you guys a very, very safe and festive holiday season. And I look forward to seeing several of you in Vegas. I will be the one playing roulette, and I always bet on black, so I tend to lose a lot.
Oh
So it should
boy,
be a good
Casey
time.
Markee in Vegas.
Yeah, that's
That
right.
feels like a lethal combo
That's right.
there,
Yeah, good.
but that'll be exciting.
You're in trouble when you have player cards at 11 casinos. So good times.
Oh my. All right, you heard it here first, folks. If Casey loses all of his money, it's because of
Oh,
those player cards.
definitely.
And then again, one more time, if you are interested in grabbing one of those final 28 tickets, I believe we said that's where they're at. The link is available. Again, Daphne will drop it there. And then all of your amazing links and everything you talked about will be in the replay, which takes place on our Tastemaker Collaborative. And we can also have the PowerPoint available in there if that's helpful for everybody. So don't forget to tune into our next episode of Tastemaker Talk. We will be talking with Raptive in the new year. So we're keeping the fun going. So happy holidays, everybody. See you next time. Thanks for being here.